Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Coach Maurice Beasley here with our lecture two of our lecture series for Photoshop in our raster imaging class here. We're going to go over lecture number two here today, which is our Adobe Bridge and metadata information. So what I have for you, just when you open up and get to that class, there is this PDF, which I'm going to show you in a PowerPoint format. We're going to go through that first. Let me explain that. Then we're going to go over the rest of our learning objectives, which is going into Adobe Bridge, showing you what that looks like with some files that I'm going to work with and show you what the process would be with using Adobe Bridge and why to use it and that sort of thing. Then we're going to, right after the lecture, once you finish with the quiz questions and you get that assessment done, then the batch process lab one is going to be available. So I'm going to show you what's required for you to do in lab one, what's going to be asked of you. So to do so you get kind of an understanding and an idea of what that's going to be. So let's go ahead and get started. And here we go. All righty. Adobe Bridge. Adobe Bridge is Adobe's file manager. So instead of on Windows, you got Windows Explorer or your File Explorer. And in on a Mac, you have what is called Finder. It allows you to find files, look at them, probably get some information about them, and then open them up in whatever program you need to open that file in. So Adobe Bridge was Adobe's version of doing that without you having to depend on your platform. So instead of seeing something different, Windows to Mac, you see the same thing no matter which platform you're on. That's basically what it's for and what it's going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you when we get out of this PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to show you how to navigate around within Adobe Bridge, give you a kind of an understanding while we're here in PowerPoint here is an understanding of what metadata is and what you're going to be doing with it. I'm going to show you how you can create your own system of organizing yourself. We're going to talk about things like naming conventions. We're going to talk about how you name your files, your folders. Even you can expand that into the layers in Photoshop, the layers in Illustrator, the names of objects. If you start writing code in HTML and CSS, how to write the code. So you want to get into something with naming conventions that you're going to stick with from this day forward. You'll have a naming convention that you'll have for yourself, but you'll also build up one that would work with a team of people. A lot of times when you have a team, you will always talk with each other about, how to actually name everything. We'll go through the process with that. You'll hear it a few times as we go along through this class. We're going to look at the interface of Bridge. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. There's a lot of stuff Bridge can do beyond just file management and the metadata side of it. There's a lot more things within Bridge that we don't have the time to actually go through it all because it won't make a whole lot of sense. But we'll come to it if we need to throughout the course. Go back and revisit. Um, Talked about the workspace. You can customize your workspace just like you can customize your workspace in all the versions of the Adobe programs now. If you wish to do it, you can. It's the same process to what we did and I showed you in lecture one if you want to do that, and we'll take a look at it. Now, here's an important slide. There are three different types of metadata that you need to just be aware of the names of them and what their functions are. So, on a camera, phone camera, professional camera, consumer level camera, however, you have what is called EXIF metadata. Basically, that is information that comes from the camera. So when the picture is taken from the camera, there is metadata information that is added. It's permanent information. You can't change it. It's the date and time the picture was taken, the camera body information, whatever the camera that was taken with it. Did the flash go off at the time? Sometimes location data. It depends. Now, on the more professional level cameras, you can control some of that information of what's going to be added in. Meaning you can go in, connect your camera to your computer, or do it directly in the camera and like program what you want to put in. You can put your name in there, the name of your company, your address and contact information, and all that type of information. Why is this important, Maurice? Well, you need to add this metadata in at different points because it's a level of ownership. When you take a picture with a photo, when you take a photo with a camera, I'm sorry, that belongs to you. You know, that thing belongs to you because you bought the camera, you take the picture with the camera, so you are the artist or the creator of that photo. Once you've created that photo, if anybody took it from you illegally without your permission, without paying you for it, you can sue them for it. It's possible. That goes also into your files that you create. Everything that you make belongs to you. Now, if you work for a company, say we'll use Coca-Cola, for instance. With a company like Coca-Cola, they will have you sign a contract. And in that contract, the language will say something like the things that you create for them is intellectual property, meaning that Coca-Cola owns the stuff that you created. So the ads that you make for them, the campaign posters, the logos, the designs of their products, any of the things that they hired you to create for them belongs to Coca-Cola, the company. And that is true. It does belong to them. However, the original artwork that you created, all right, belongs to you as well. It's kind of a split deal. You can say that you worked for Coca-Cola. You could say that you worked on different campaigns for Coca-Cola. If the contract has a clause in it that allows you to do this, you can even put in your portfolio the things that you did for Coca-Cola. So you could show samples to somebody. However, with a company like Coca-Cola, a lot of times the stuff that they have you work on is still kind of top secret, even after you've left the company. So they don't want you to put that stuff into the portfolio. And they'll have language within there that says that you can't do that. But here's the deal. They can't deny that you didn't work there. They have to say, yes, this person worked here at a time and they worked on products and things for us, but we can't say specifically what it was. And I'm saying that from experience because I did work for Coke at one point in time in a freelance basis. I can state that I worked for them. I can state that I worked on different campaigns and stuff for them, but I can't say specifically what it was, and I can't show specifically what it was. Because even though I made stuff and I owned what I made, I can't show it to anybody because I'm not allowed. If you create something for yourself, your own creations that you make, that you want to sell, that you want to promote yourself with a portfolio or on a website or what have you, all of these things have to have some type of metadata on it. So that way it's trackable. And that way, if somebody takes the things, you can claim that you own it originally. They could take that information from the courts, can take that information and find it out because they can find the metadata information on any file that exists. Now, the EXIF is information that is on a camera. So when the camera or a scanner or something, or even a film camera takes that picture, that metadata is added into that image. You can't change that information. You can only add to it. IPTC is the copyright, contact details, and other information that you have the ability to add to that picture. So a program like Bridge will allow you to add that information into the picture. Also, programs like Bridge exist out in the world where if somebody wanted to, they could come behind you after you put your information there. They can come behind you and add their information. And it's always adding. It's never removing. Where they can add their information into the metadata along on top of yours. Now, if your information is first, you're the original owner. So in a court situation, you would be the one that wins in that court situation because you owned the product originally, or you created the product originally. That's how I should say it. XMP. XMP is the metadata information that Adobe creates. It's their framework, meaning it's their organized system of the metadata that if you go in and add your own information to the file or what have you, Adobe creates a separate file for itself that's built inside of Bridge that holds on to that information. So not only is it added to the picture, but Adobe has a file, built into Bridge. You could take that XMP metadata information and actually save it as a separate file if you needed to. And I'll show you a process in which to do that. It's not, how can I say it? It's not something you have to do. It's something that you can do if you want. Um, Maybe you want to pass it to just the metadata information to someone else without the picture. But usually you want the picture and the data to go together because there's no need to have it separate. All right. So our workflow here, going with the metadata. The first thing is always, of course, viewing and looking at the information that originally is there. That's that number one. Number two is adding and editing the information that is there. Number three, if is an optional thing, you can create a template. If you have multiple pictures, as a photographer, you would take thousands of pictures of the same scene for like a model shoot or for an event that you're doing. So all of those things would have the same set of information on it with the metadata. So you can create a template that would have that information on there to cover all those pictures at one time. You also could do the same idea for your own company. So you as a photography company, you have metadata that you want to add to every picture. So you can go in and create a template that would have your information there where you don't have to keep retyping it over and over again. Batch apply goes back to what I was just talking about with the thousands of pictures. You can do a batch application of all that metadata to all those pictures all at one time. Again, saving you time in the process. But that's usually the workflow, what you do with Adobe Bridge. There's one other number 5 that could be added to this, and that is processing the pictures. If you got a bunch of pictures that they all need to be the same size, they all need to be saved as the same type of file. They all need to be saved in the same folder. You could do a batch process that I'll show you how to do with a bunch of pictures where they're all going to be uniform in their size. They're going to be all with the same file type, and they're all going to be saved in the same folder for whatever the purpose is that you need to do it for. Um, this is just another slide about creating the efficient workflow when it comes to just the metadata, importing the files in to Adobe Bridge. Um, Usually it's just targeting the folder and making sure you have access to the folder that has the files in them. You're not going to be targeting the flash drive, the external hard drive, or the memory card. You should always save those files onto your computer first, make a copy and put it onto your computer, apply the metadata changes that you wish to, and then take those files and then put them onto your external storage, your long-term external storage. And then you pull copies of those from that long-time external storage and pull copies as you need them to work on. So that way those copies will always have the original metadata information on it, and then anything else you want to add to it afterwards. Okay, assessment part 1. These are just different questions when you see these in the slides that's going to be asked in the assessment. So if you can answer these particular questions, cool. That will help you with the assessment. So when you're looking at this on your own, that's what these slides happen to deal with. There should be 3 of them that kind of gives you some, generalized ideas. Oh, actually, it's 4 in this particular case. So when you get this PDF of this presentation that I'm talking you through right now, you'll see these and go in and take a look and see what you see as the questions. See if you can answer them for yourself. I suggest and I encourage you to always do your own research and look up information. Don't just rely on what I am telling you here in class, because while I do know what I'm talking about, I don't know everything. So the questions that are brought up in the assessment, these are questions that I generated based on the lecture that I'm giving, but they're questions that you still have to go and look for and look up in the material that I give you. Besides just this presentation, there's also guides and other equivalent files that go along with every lecture. Make sure you read through that information so that way you can get the answers to the questions. In class, if you're in my in-person class, we will go through these discussion topics here just to think about and talk about things as discussion topics before we kind of dive into stuff. So let me bypass that. batch processing techniques. So this slide here is just talking about the batch process. So after you've gone through, you got your files organized, you've applied the metadata to all the files through the template or whichever way that you're applying your metadata and keywords and things like that to hold that information. Now you probably want to take a group of those files and process them all at the same time inside of Photoshop. So Bridge has a way of making that happen. It's called batch processing. There is a few different choices. It depends on what you're trying to do, which choice you make. I'm going to show you the one that you're going to use in the lab for the lab at that point, so you can see what that process would be, just so you know what you need to do regarding to the lab. So that way you can make it happen. And then this is just letting you know at the end of each one of these presentations here, there should be a preview slide that just tells you what the next thing we're going to be doing, which is going in the color theory, not necessarily the color correction part. That's a completely different lecture, but the color theory part is what we're going to go into next out of here. So let's get out of this and let's go to our next part. Give me one moment to pull this guy up. Boom, 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 boom. All right, I'll do it like this. Adobe Bridge. Just pulling the program over here now that I got it open. Now, Adobe Bridge is a memory hog, just like um, Photoshop and the rest of them. This thing eats up memory too. So having this program open with Photoshop, with Illustrator, with InDesign, with Premiere After Effects, it can suck up a lot of system memory. So it will slow your system down if you don't have anything that's very powerful. So be aware of that. Just if stuff starts to slow down on your computer while you're doing something, start looking at, getting out of different programs, quitting out of programs, quitting out your file browser, your window browser, quitting out of your internet browser, getting out of Bridge, close down programs that you're not using, close down files that you're not using. That'll usually speed things up to at least complete the process of what you're doing in the program, and then you can save and quit as often as you can. I will emphasize that a lot in these classes because it is very important to make sure you don't lose stuff. And you lose things by not paying attention. That's how you lose things. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to things. Now, in Adobe Bridge, its job, like I said, is like a file explorer. So if I go into Adobe and go into my Mac here, this is my Mac Finder window. It's called Finder. It allows me to look around at different locations on my computer. I got little saved folders here on the side that I can, jump myself to, look at files when it comes to anything that has a picture in it. Where is my Photoshop folder? Right there. If I find a picture, I can look at that picture as a little small preview. I can hit my space bar on my Mac to see a bigger version of the picture. I can even do Command I, which is a keyboard shortcut for looking at the info, which would show me some of the metadata information that comes with this file. Gives me the ability to choose how to open it and that sort of thing. On Windows, it would be right-clicking on the picture and going to Properties, pulls up something similar as this. So I got the ability to do those type of things, but if I'm on a Windows machine, this Finder window is now called File Explorer now. It used to be called Windows Explorer. You would still have the same sidebar here to be able to have the little folders off to the side. You should be able to click onto the picture to actually see like a thumbnail of it, but you may not be able to see like the larger version of it without like scaling the entire interface to get larger. You may have a preview, you may not. I'm not even sure because I'm not a Windows user. And then, like I said, you can right click on the picture and go to properties and get some property information, which would be the metadata, some of it. And then even choose, what you want to open that file with that file association. So similar things to what you got in your Windows Explorer or in Finder, you got over here at Bridge. It's the similar things. It's the same things. So what are you doing here inside of Bridge? Well, Bridge gives you those same capabilities. Looking for files, looking for folders, bookmark those folders so you can get back to them whenever you need to. And you still have all that capabilities, but you can see the metadata, you can see more of it, and you can add more stuff to it, which you can't do in your normal operating system finder. And then you also have the batch process and everything else that you could do. So there's a lot more here. And it's the same interface on Windows or Mac, so you'll have the same look. So let's start first with this favorites folder. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen, you have your favorites folder. And there's like favorites, and then there's another tab called folders that you can go search around and find things. Below that, you have a collection, filter, and export folder sitting there. The filter you'll probably use a lot. Collections, not so much. It just depends on how you or maybe the team of you work. Collections is the ability to create subgroups with inside of a group. So you can make a collection and then have the computer search all the way in your computer and any of your peripheral devices like your Dropbox or OneDrive, Google Drive and OneDrive and all that, and look for certain criteria and add those things to the collection. So you can add extra pictures and stuff to the collection as you need to. The filter allows you to filter through what you're looking for to find things a little bit faster. And I'll show you that when we get to the actual pictures. Export gives you the ability to export files out into different files. I don't use that often because I would rather open the file up in the program that I'm going to be using it in and then export through that way. To me, that's a little cleaner, a little more efficient. One of the things that Adobe is known for is trying to give you programs where you can do multiple things all at the same time, as well as similar things as you can with other programs. So this export option is put in here just to give a user the ability to do something that they would do in the Photoshop or Illustrator or something. Over on the right hand side of the screen, you have preview, publish, and quick actions. Quick actions is a brand new thing, like brand new as of like a few weeks ago. That has some actions that you probably would go to the menu bar to go and do, and they just have them here, or you would go to like Photoshop or whatever to do. Again, just new stuff that they put in just to see if you want to use it from here instead of going into the actual program. Publish is again one of those things that if you wanted to do it from here, you could. There's a couple of free things in here, like you have Adobe Stock. If you are a photographer and you want to do this, you can contribute your pictures to Adobe Stock. So give you a scenario. Take pictures at a wedding. You have an agreement in a contract with the clients that the wedding pictures that the clients decide not to use, you have the rights in which to use them for multiple things, including putting them at stock photo companies. If they agree to that, Adobe Stock is your stock photo company. You can actually submit pictures to Adobe Stock or Unsplash or Pexels or any place like that. And with Adobe Stock, that's something that's a paid for stock photo company, kind of like Getty Images or Rubberball or places like that. You post them up, you set a price, people buy them, buy the license of which to use, you get paid. If you want to do that, it's fine. And then you have Adobe Portfolio, which is your own personal portfolio of displaying your work. Again, these are just things that are built into here, and it's not necessarily something you would use here, but you have the option if you want to use that option. And then below that, you have metadata and keywords. Now, metadata is where you're putting in that information, adding the metadata in. And then keywords is where you can add in keywords, things that are related to the group of pictures that you're probably tagging and setting up right now. So you could search for things over in the filter side by the keywords. You can also search through things from up here at the top. Over here to the top right corner, there is a place for doing a search, and you can search for things by keywords. Once you've added the keywords to the pictures, then it can search to your computer to find these things. So this workspace is kind of the generic, simple workspace of essentials that's already always here. Up at the top, right above in the middle, you will see essentials sitting there, but you'll also have like libraries and film strip and output, metadata. All of these are essentially just different workspace layouts. In my experience, I just leave it to essentials. I never really changed it around, but you do have the ability to change it around like you do in some of the other programs. It's just they put the workspaces right here where it's convenient. Instead of going to the window menu and going to workspace, which you could still do, it's still there. But instead of doing that, they just made it as a little set of links across the top, if you want to use that. Now, let's find ourselves some pictures and start playing with some things. So I am going to do this. So let's just do it from the beginning here. So in the folders section, I'm going to go to my Mac hard drive and I'm just going to double click through the folders and everything to get the stuff. So I'm going to go to users, and from users, I'm going to go to my username, and I'm going to look for my documents folder, because inside of my documents folder is where all my class files are. And inside of class files, I'm going to find my Photoshop. So my Photoshop Bootcamp folder has in there under basics, should have my batch process folder in here. Yeah. Ooh, it's not there. Hold on, let me back up. I go back up here to the top through the breadcrumbs, as they call them. The breadcrumbs are just going from my computer through all the different folders. Oh, I'm sorry. Batch process was outside of basics. So see, batch process right there. And in here is my different folders. So model shoot is what I'm going to use in here for class. So for this model shoot, it's a bunch of pictures of this young lady, that was taken some time ago. I even forget when this was taken, but it's a bunch of pictures of her in different poses out by the pool, just taking these different shots, right? The preview that I'm looking at right now shows me these pictures kind of big because I had adjusted this already. So down at the very bottom, usually towards the middle or over towards the middle and the right of the center section here, you'll see a little slider that you could slide to make the pictures bigger or smaller. So that way you could see the preview as big or small as you want to. I usually get it kind of big because, again, older person that I am with the glasses. I don't want the glasses to get any thicker or any bigger and that sort of thing. So I make this a little bit big. You do have a preview though. So if you click on a picture over here on the right-hand side, there is this preview section that I mentioned about before. You can make that preview section a little bit larger. There's each one of these areas or sections here, you can make larger by moving to the side and to the bottom of that section. And you'll see like the double arrowhead. You'll see your cursor change that a double arrowhead. And you can make make that area a little bit larger for preview so it covers a bigger area. So you get a bigger preview space. And that's fine. You could do that. But then you'd have to move it back in order to get to the metadata. So for me, I'm like, I'll just leave the preview at whatever default size and as wide as I needed to make it. And then I just make the previews of the original thumbnail pictures bigger. I'd rather make that bigger because I could see those. By the way, the previews are supposed to show you the image at full size, meaning that it's supposed to be the full quality, full size. What I have noticed over time, though, is that what you're looking at, though, the pictures are what they call proxy images, which means it's not full resolution, it's not full quality pictures. You won't see that until you get into the actual program when you open it. It's full quality, so don't get fooled by the preview that shows up of how good that picture is. It's going to try to process it to make it look good, but if you got a whole bunch of photos, the quality of the photos may get worse. Video, same thing. If you got a bunch of video assets that you're looking at, the quality of that video asset may not show as high quality here in Bridge as when you open it up in Premiere or After Effects or whatever your video editor is. So don't let that throw you off. Now, when you click on a picture, you found that picture and you're good to go with that. Now, What happens if I need to get back to these pictures again? Well, what happens over here in this folders section, when you finally get to that location, the folder, you're going to see the path to that folder listed out. And you'll see the folder in this folder section here. You'll be able to find it. Usually it's highlighted. You can right click on that folder. And when you right click on the folder, you would be able to add it to your favorites. And when you say add to favorites, what ends up happening is in the favorites tab, that folder is there. So you have an easier time to just jump right to that folder whenever you need to. So it just saves you time essentially. So that way you can kind of jump around and get to different folders, especially if you use that folder over and over again. So good idea to do that. What I've done in the past is if I'm working with, I used to work with like 3, 4 photographers who did all kinds of events. So what I used to do is in my documents folder, I made folders that would be that particular client. So whoever that photographer is, that's the name of that folder. The client's name is that photographer. And then in that folder would be other folders for each event that they've done. So I would dump their pictures into that event folder. And then I would make a favorites of each one of those clients folders. The more efficient that you feel that you need to be, the more organized that you are within your digital files, the easier it is to find stuff. Trust me on that. Don't just throw stuff on the desktop. The stuff will be all over the place. You want to organize things as much as possible. Make folders and folders and folders and organize things into the different folders. We'll talk about naming conventions a little bit later on in this process, but just make sure you do that. So when you select the picture and you got the folder saved over there in the favorites, now you're ready to start getting down with the metadata stuff. Now, for the metadata, it's kind of simple. There's this panel here that's called metadata. It's everything is separated out into different sections. Let me collapse these down. The first section is the file properties and the EXIF information. So at the top, the very top of the metadata list, you will see the information that comes off of the camera or the information that was saved. There wasn't much saved from the camera as far as this, like the FX with the f-stop and the ISO and that sort of thing. None of that was saved. None of that information was saved. But depending on the camera, you could turn that stuff off, which this photographer probably did, or you could leave that on so that information would pop in. You see what the original size, 480 by 480 for this particular picture that I got selected right now. It's 59 kilobyte in size because it's only 72 PPI, which means it's tiny. And from the lecture 1 class in the introduction, I talked about your different file types and your outputs for the resolution and such. I think that's in the introduction folder. If you remember, let me go real quick, because if you haven't done so, you might want to do this part. This walkthrough video, if you didn't click on this walkthrough video there within the class, make sure you do that. You get the first part of the introduction, which goes over a lot of that information. And then in the lecture 1, there's another video that goes over the rest of it when it comes to resolution and outputs and that sort of thing. One other thing, just in case you hadn't done it yet, resource for students. Make sure you click onto that. I ain't going to show you what's in there, but click on there and see and kind of look around and see what's there. You may find something that's a gift from me for those who are diligent enough. Now, back over here to Bridge. File properties. This is another section of the EXIF information where you have information that you cannot change, but you can just look at it. And it just gives you more details, like what's the actual file name, the document type, the date this file was created, and if it was modified, at one point in time. What was it modified? Its file size, original dimensions, in different formats, its resolution that it has, its bit depth. Usually it's going to be 8 for the bit depth, but with cameras nowadays, you can go to 16 and 32 and 64 bit depth now, which goes into billions and billions of color different combinations that the world has. These sensors on these cameras are getting better and better to be able to capture that, even though Photoshop only well, I won't say Photoshop. Photoshop, you could manage those higher bit depths. It's other devices, cameras, phones, internet browser, only reads 8-bit depth. So even though you have all these billions of colors that you could possibly get into and deal with, your eyes only really see an 8-bit color, and your devices, most of the devices only display an 8-bit color. So technology is going to get there eventually, but technology of your eyes are really not going to change much. The color mode, the color profile, which we'll talk about in lecture 3 about setting up your own color profile, but you see that it's there. All the information that comes off the camera directly is there in the file properties. Now, IPTC core and IPTC extension. This is the information that you pretty much are going to concentrate on adding your stuff or changing whatever's there to whatever you need to change it to. When you do the lab, talk about it when we get there, about processing and making your own template and what you should be adding in there and the things that I'm going to require you out of the lab to add in. So stick around to the end of this so you can see about the lab stuff. So advice here, you are the creator. If you were the one that took this photo, your name would be there as the creator. I can put my name here for now. I did not shoot these pictures, but I'm going to put my name in there anyway. If that information was there, if there was something there, it would just be pushed back to the next level. If there was nothing there, like there was nothing here now, on a technical side, I could say I was the creator of these photos, but really I'm not because somebody else took these pictures and I'm just using them. I got permission which to use them, but their information just wasn't added in because I just didn't add it for these copies. The originals that the original photographer got, I did take care of them, but for now, I left everything blank in these files. You could put in your job title. So let's just say designer. Your address. Let's make up an address. South. SUITE. Make it sound nice and businessy. Put in an did I spell that right? A-T Atlanta. Sometimes I go too fast. Atlanta, Georgia, GA, and a zip code. And country and phone number. I'm not going to do all this stuff because it's going to take me too long to type. But you see, you got all this information of you as the creator that you want to put in. Headlines. Now, the headline, again, optional. You could put that in there. That could be everything from the title of this file. Like if you were creating a Photoshop file or an Illustrator file, maybe you want to put a headline in there. So that would be like, what title you want to give. But I think title is one of the options that's a little bit further down that you could put in. A description is here where you could put in a description. Usually you could type as much as you want in these fields that show up here. But for something like a description, I would say leave it to about 3 sentences worth of information. Little short, small paragraph. Metadata sometimes can be read by different devices, different things like web browsers and search engines and such. So, for instance, if you had a search engine looking for this system, looking for this picture, when it finds it, it can display the description back to your user, that when they find the picture. So if you want to put something, in, you can go with the description. The alternate text, you're going to see this alt text a few times. Alt text again, this is a web browser situation. If the picture that's supposed to load up in the space on the web page does not load, the alternate text is what shows up to give the user the ability to read what's supposed to be there. Those people with visual disabilities, if they have a screen reader or something attached to their computer to read back what's on the screen, since the picture didn't show up, the alternate text would be read. Or even if the picture did show up, the alternate text would be read to describe that picture. So whenever you see alternate text, there's alt text entry right here. You're going to put in something that would describe the picture. So I think her name, I forget her name. Let's make up a name. Let's just call her Roxanne. So Rox, Roxanne, Shantae. And if you know who Roxanne Shantae is, don't give it away. Roxanne Shantae, up close picture of her by the pool in the summer. You could be as descriptive as you want to be, but you don't have to be super descriptive. Just say what it is, and then go from there. You can type as much as you want to, but you don't have to type in forever. Keywords. Now, this one's important. With keywords, you can put in different keywords that represent. Usually, it's going to be one word that describes that picture. You can make these keywords up as you want to. You separate each keyword by a comma. So, this could be her name, ANE, comma, comma. It doesn't have to be capitalized. I'm capitalizing things, but it doesn't have to be. It's just separating everything out by a comma is the important part. Image. African American. Multi-word keyword. That's permitted if you want to. Usually I try to limit it to just one word, but you can do multiple words if you want to. If you want that multi-word keyword to be read all together, besides putting it, putting it all together, you probably want to put a double quote around the word just so it's read all as one word. It's not separated. So around all the words that's supposed to be this multi-word keyword, put it in double quotes or put a dash in between the words or something like that. So that way it's read all as one word. When it's searched for or what have you, it could be found that way. So it's just something to put in. Now, this IPTC subject code, probably do a little research to see what that is, what involves in that. I haven't seen anything that's important for that you have to do it for everything. So I usually leave that blank. This information of the description writer, you can add that information in as you yourself if you're the one writing this information in there if you want to, especially if you're going to create a template out of this. Date created, you can add that if you want to, but again, that's part of the permanent stuff, so I usually don't put that in. Intellectual genre, like what genre of intellectual property is it supposed to be? There are some designated designations for intellectual genre. If you want to look that up on Google, you can find that information out and see if you need to put something there. Usually you don't have to. Let's see, what else needs to be in here? The city, state, and country information that's here is for the location of this picture. Title, see there's a title section right there. I don't know why it's so far down in this section here, but it's just far down there to put a title to the file if you want to. Credit line, like your photo credits would be the credit line. Source would be if you don't know who shot the photo, but maybe you pulled this photo from a website, you could put in the website as the source of where you got this photo from. For instance, Pexels, Unsplash, some of those free photo type websites like Pixabay and Unsplash and Pexels and all that. You can take the web address. Like once you find the picture, you click on it to download that picture, that web address that's right up there at the top, copy it, paste it into the source section. I'll show you a good workflow to do with that too, once we get out of doing this here with Bridge, if you want to use that. Copyright notice also, if you know what the copyright notice needs to be, because sometimes your company, they will, their legal department will give you what needs to go there for the copyright notice, and as well as the usage terms, which would be some long paragraph of or a couple of paragraphs that you copy and paste in. Same thing with the copyright status, because usually if it's for a company, it's copyrighted. So you would say it to be copyrighted, and metadata changes is in progress. You want to apply? Yes, I do want to apply these changes. Um, okay. I don't know why it popped up with that message while I was doing this, but that message that popped up was saying that, hey, you're making changes to this image. As far as the metadata, do you want to go ahead and apply it? Maybe it had to do an autosave or something in the background, and it just had to ask me, so it popped in that. But usually, if you look down here to the bottom right, there is like this checkbox and this X. So all the stuff that I'm adding in, when I finish, I would hit this checkbox to add it and apply it all, or the X to cancel that out. So that message that popped up is the same as these two little buttons over here. Anyway, I could set the copyright status to be copyrighted. I would put in the copyright notice, and then I would also put in the usage terms for that. Until then, I would keep it to unknown. Public domain also mean, oh, it's just because I'm changing that. Pops that message up. That's a weird thing. Public domain means that it's open for anybody to use. So for instance, Unsplash and Pexels, when you upload something to them, it's public domain. So those files you will not get paid for. They will not pay you for using those files or anyone downloading those files. You're putting it up there because you want the world to freely use and do what they need to do with those pictures. The only thing that's requested is they give you some type of thank you, like a photo credit or something like that. So you want to make sure that this information that I'm showing you here is inside of the photos before you upload it to anybody, before you give it to a client, before you upload it to a stock photo company, before you put it into Unsplash or anything like that. You need to make sure this information is here, so that way it goes with the file. Now, the extension stuff, IPTC extension. See, it says person shown. This would be where I would put the name of the model here. Because, and also another thing that happens, if you put information in one section, if it's the same information as needed in another section, it'll just copy it over. So you don't have to redundantly write the same things over and over again. Location in which the file was taken. These sections here, you got these little plus signs that you can click on to add location information, if you need to, or a little trash can to delete the location information as you need to. So that way you can, be very specific, like, hey, this was taken in this location, at this city, in this place, and that sort of thing. This information is the same as under IPTC Core, where it's asking you the same things as far as the city, state, country, sublocation. That's the same information. So if I had put it in over here in the IPTC Core, it would be the first entry under this extension, but I didn't do it there. So if I do it here under extension, it would be added to the core section, just so you would understand. But this is extra information in case you need to add it to this file, for whatever reason. Some of these entries here, you can add multiple entries because it gives you the little plus sign to not only add one, but add multiples if you need to, for whatever you need to set this up for. Do you have to do this for every picture? Short answer is no, but the longer answer is yes. If this is for your own personal work, you don't have to do everything if you don't want to. But you run the risk of somebody taking that work and claiming it to be theirs, and you have nothing to stand on. Okay, no information to stand on. Yeah, you got the metadata from the original file you made and that sort of thing and created, but you still have nothing in there to tag it as being yours. So you could have, gotten a hard drive from somebody that had stuff on there, and then you want to claim it as to be yours. This person, they put their information in there and tag their name on it, so now it belongs to them. So you don't want to run that risk. So yes, you should add this metadata information under IPTC core as, as just in general. Just add that at least. The rest of these categories, GPS, most of the time there's not a lot here. You can add stuff in here if you need to. Under audio, this would be an audio file. If you have an audio file in here and you want to add in this information for the artist and that sort of thing. Same thing with video. If you had a video file, you would add not only the video information, but if there's audio recorded with the video, then you would add the audio stuff in there too, as necessary. Again, giving proper credit to where it belongs. DICOM, DICOM. This is usually medical information. So if you're working for if the pictures were taken for a medical company, hospital, clinics, dentists, veterinary, whatever within the medical field, you may need to add this information in here because you'd be taking pictures of a particular person and that person has rights, alive or passed on. That person or animal has the rights to be identified. So you would put in something to identify them in case it needs to be put in here. You would have that available. So all of this metadata can be added to any picture. Once you add it in and go through that process, in the bottom right-hand corner, as I mentioned before, you would hit this checkbox here to this check mark to apply. Yeah, it doesn't disappear anymore. It used to disappear. That's what I was looking for it. So it's just click it and then that's it. It just applies it. That message that I had pop up a couple of times, when you hit that check mark, it may pop up and ask you to confirm that that's what you want to do, is apply that information. And once you say yes, apply it, then now it's applied and there it goes. If you made a mistake at any time, you can hit the X to, cancel, the application. And again, it'll prompt you for that as well, to make sure that this is exactly what you want to do. Now, that's for one picture. Well, all that I did within the metadata, that's for one picture. That's great. That's wonderful. What if I had a bunch of pictures? Like, there's a bunch of pictures here. I don't want to do that one picture at a time. Can I do it and apply it to these multiple pictures all at once? Well, yeah, you got actually two good ways of doing it. One good way is to select all the pictures at one time. Hopefully, they're all in the same one folder. Again, you can, I zoomed out so that way I could see all the pictures, make it easier to select them all. You could do the standard Control or Command A as a select all command. If everything's in that one folder, it selects everything in that folder. The preview at the top above the metadata would show you all the pictures. If you could make it big enough, you could probably see all the pictures at once. But it just shows you all the pictures there in the preview. That's not important. But what is happening is that now file properties, as well as the IPTC core and all the other metadata information, is dealing with these multiple pictures. So under file properties, you'll see this especially. You'll see where it says multiple values in parentheses. It's because it can't show you just one set of information because you're dealing with multiple things. When you go to any of the other categories, there may be sections where you can't or you shouldn't change it because it's going to apply to all of them. So it'll show you multiple values there. So this way, if it had information in there, it's going to show you multiple values to let you know that, hey, all these pictures, some, if not all of them, have multiple information in there. So make sure that you're aware of that. And then if you want to, you can click and replace. So that way now my name is applied to all these pictures. If I went over to the extension section, remember where it had like the person shown? It just has her name there, but it looked like it had just applied. It should have applied to all of them, but if I want to make sure, I just type it in again and again hit the check mark there to apply it at the bottom before you're done, before you say you're done. Make sure you get yourself into that workflow because it looks like I didn't get a message that popped up once I put those two things in there. But you can add just those two things, or you can add more as you feel like you need to. So there you go. But that's one way of doing it. So you can select all the pictures at one time, add all the metadata all at once. If that's the only time that you're ever going to work on these pictures to do that, have at it. Just do it that one time and be done. if you're a photographer, you're an independent graphic designer, as a freelancer, independent photographers, anybody has to deal with these multitude of files. Sometimes you may be the photographer's assistant. So your job is just to do what the photographer doesn't feel like they're wanting to do, like this type of stuff. It's a good idea also to make a metadata template. So the template is basically all this same information in a format that you can apply to multiple things later. So let me show you how to do that. So up here at the top in the menu bar, I got tools. And under tools, you will see create metadata template. Now, let's talk about your lab for a second. In your lab, you're going to be given files. You're going to import those files into your Bridge program. You're going to go and create a metadata template based on that those files that I want you to apply to all those files. Also, with the metadata template, one of the other options you have, and I'll show you that when we get to the end of this part, you can save that metadata template not only for Bridge, but you could save it for somebody else. So if you wanted to put this information and give this information that you're creating for the template, and you want to give it to, say, somebody else on your team, say, hey, when you get these files as well, make sure you add this metadata template to them. And you can add it to the process. So it's a way to do that. So let's go with a scenario. I have my company, and I'm a photographer. So I'm the photographer. So let's say MD photography, basic info. Now, the thing about these metadata templates, you don't want to be very, very specific with them because you will have every one of the same categories as we had before. However, you want to make sure that you're only putting in, and I wish they would do this in the template where it doesn't give you all these options, it only gives you like some of them. You only really want to go after the information that pertains to yourself or the information that pertains to your client. So if I was making this for myself, as the photography company, I would put in only the information that relates to the photography company. My name as the creator, my name as the address, city, state, country, phone numbers, email addresses, that information. But things like the headline, the description, the alternate text, I wouldn't add that because that would change picture to picture. The keywords, I could probably put in a couple of keywords that would be related to me and my company, like, the MD photography. So that way that would be like the first keyword added in. But after that, I probably wouldn't add any other keywords in here. But I would, because then it would be applied to all the pictures that I apply this template to. So you want to make sure that you're only adding in the things that need to be added to everything. Any of your intellectual property information, your copyright information you would put in here. If you're doing this for, say, a client, does that client have copyright information? Does that client have any, information that they need to have added into here with their name and that sort of information? Stuff in the IPTC extension. Do you need to add stuff into there? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but you need to make sure that you add only the things that is going to be the same data that you would add to every picture or every file that you would apply this to. So it's not everything that's here. It's just only a select few stuff. And make it based on yourself, the client, the job, whatever. I would not make a template for a particular job or a particular event unless that event is recurring every day, every year, every month, or whatever. I would do a template for myself. I've created templates for clients where, as the photographer, I would add in my template, and then I can go right behind those pictures for that client. Once the client selected the pictures, I would select those pictures, and I would add the template for that client on top of what I've already added. And I'm going to show you what that process looks like. Give me 1 second. Let me add my name as creator. Let me put a different city. Hong Kong, country is China. I want to show you that you can add metadata on top of what's already there. And you got a couple of different options you have of doing that. So I just want to yeah, I just do this little bit of information and hit save. Once I save it, that's been added in. Now, let me do the control A again to select all. Now, to remember, before I do this next step, I added information to the file properties, not to the file properties, to the IPTC core, putting my name there, to all of these pictures, under IPTC core. They all don't have a country. They all don't have a city or the same city or state. Matter of fact, while I'm here, let me add the city and the country, USA, to this, and then hit the check mark to add that all in. So now I've added that to all these pictures at one time through the metadata panel. Now, if I go back to tools, you will see a couple of different choices here. At the top under that create metadata, there's edit the template, where I can edit the template I just made, but there's also append and replace. Now, append allows you to add information, but only in the blanks, meaning I can only add information to any of these categories or any of these entries where it's empty. If it's got something there, it won't add it. So that's what append does. If there's information already there in that particular section, it won't add new information. It only adds new information to anything that's blank. Then you also have replace metadata, which is the one I like to use because what that does, it takes the old information and pushes it back one level and replaces it with your new information that you're adding. So I like using replace metadata because it's just more efficient for me. So if I do this replace metadata here and then choose the template, what should happen, it should process. And then if you look here, all these are still selected. See what it did? See, it put Hong Kong and China there, which is the things that I added to my template. It added that in. And my name is still there, Maurice Beasley. I didn't respell my name or anything like that. So it just added that information in and just updated. Right. And then I just have to hit the check mark here to make sure it's applied. So you can create a template. Once you create the template, then you can select a group of pictures and apply the template. And when you apply it, you can see the results through the metadata panel. So that's that. All right. That's all I want to show you right now in this iteration. I'm going to do another video and we're going to pick up from here and talk about what the next thing is with the metadata. One more thing before I leave out of here. I forgot. See, I was about to leave out of here and I forgot to do the one thing that I wanted you to do, and that is, something I can't do from here. That's why I didn't show it to you from here. Yeah, I don't know why this is set up this way, but if I wanted to take this metadata template and give it to somebody else, they don't have it where I can, export it out from here. That's what I wanted to show you, is that you can't do that from here. Like, there should be a export metadata template. You would think that would be there, but it's not. Where it is though, let me go to one picture. If I double click, well, let me show you what this process does. If I wanted to open this up into Photoshop, just to make sure it opens in Photoshop, you can right click on it and, you'll have like the open with option here to make sure it opens up as Photoshop as the default. It usually is for like, JPEG files, TIFF files, PSD files. Usually your files are associated properly. If they're not, you'll probably have to go into your operating system. And if you know how to do this, go to your operating system, right click on a picture, go to properties or get info. And in both of those, it'll show you how to change the file association, like open with such program, and then confirm all of that. And then it'll open in the proper program. But if I tell it to open up in Photoshop, which is what I'm having it doing, just one of the things that's not here in Bridge, but you have it over there in Photoshop, is the ability to take this metadata template and export it out. I'm trying to see if it's somewhere else, maybe here in Bridge while my Photoshop is opening. It's not. It's not in the panel options here. Replace, append. Yeah, it's not there. It's weird to me that it's in one program, but it's not in the other, when Adobe is, trying to be famous for, putting everything into one place. But what I'm doing now here is that Photoshop is opening. I'm gonna bring this over into Photoshop. So now I got the picture here in Photoshop. Now, that same metadata template that I created for any file that I have in Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign, this process is going to be the same. You will go to your file menu, and at the bottom, you'll see where it says file info. Under file info, you will have this dialog box to pop up. This is your XMP metadata and your IPTC information. So it's the IPTC information. If you go through each one of these different categories, you'll notice that some of these are direct copies from, what we had over there in Bridge. Some of these entries you can add in, and some of them you cannot. It just depends on which category you go into. But the same information that you had over in Bridge that I added into this template, from this template or whatever, is sitting right here. Now, you can go file by file and add this information in. Or if you have it as a template, if you look down in the bottom of this interface, you'll see where it says template folder. You will have the templates. All right. So any of the metadata templates that you created in Bridge will be sitting right here, ready for you to access. Also, there's this import export options. So export right here allows you to export out the XMP metadata. So basically, I can export whatever I had in that template that I applied to this picture, all of that metadata that's in this picture, I can export it out as metadata and as a metadata template. If I want to, I can export it out as a metadata template with this, with the name of the file, or I can change it. And this is part of the things I want you to do in the lab. You're going to create the metadata template, apply it to a bunch of pictures, and then you're going to come into and open up one picture and export out the metadata template and put this file like on your desktop and package it with everything else that you're going to send for your lab submission, along with the lab report and all that other stuff. And give this file a name. But I can give this file a name and save it here. And then once I have it saved, I have a import option here as well, where I can go to another picture and import this in. All right. And when I import it, I would be choosing that template to import. And that way, if you want to share this with other people, you could. Now, a lot of times you don't need to do that, but that is an option that's there, is to be able to save that information to that XMP metadata information to share with someone else. Rare occasion, very rare occasion, you will get this XMP file from somebody to use and do that same process of creating a template. Usually they just apply the metadata to the picture, then just send you the picture. There's no need to do all the rest of it, but it is there as an option to be able to do. Now I'm going to again stop this process, stop this video. When I come back in the next video, I'm going to show you what you need to do for your lab, what the process needs to be for the lab. I'm going to use these model pictures again for the process, which is a batch rename. That's going to make copies of all these pictures, process them all into a folder, and then export everything out into the file types that we need for the project, for the lab. So I'm going to show you how that all works in the next video. So thank you for being here, and I will talk to you in a few minutes.